Okay, we're ready to roll. You got gears going?
Not yet. I'm going to start right now.
Okay.
Should indicate when we're going live.
Yeah,
All
mine.
right.
Yeah,
And
my.
we're live. Yep.
Yeah, mine's telling me to moderate, and I'm sitting here going, I don't have any viewers, so I don't know what I'm going to moderate.
All right. So I know I have to moderate my own stuff here when we're on, when I'm either live by myself or with you or somebody else.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully someday I'll actually have people. And in case anyone is listening, my channel is the Arknolia Bean channel.
Yep. I saw that one. I saw that one video you have on there, just talking about your plans that we got for each other for the couple of weeks there.
Yeah. And basically, okay, let's start off by recapping what we did. Now, Monday of 2 weeks ago, we basically kind of introduced what we're going to do, what we're going to talk about, and we actually covered music and commercials and went over that a little bit and talked about how music is effective in a commercial and how sometimes it's inappropriate or just seems kind of odd.
Or outweigh dim-witted.
Yeah, that's probably a good description.
Yes.
And Tuesday we got into classical music and pretty much
Yep.
discussed a lot. Of course, obviously we're going to miss things because
Yeah. Because
neither.
because the last week we wasn't able to do anything because a lot of things that came up at the last minute. Me moving to another place and Arknolia with his issues there.
Yeah, and when we were discussing classical music, we covered a lot, but neither you nor me know everything.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
there's some things I'm sure we missed that were important, but
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
kind of why we hope we have an audience so they can help us point some of these things out.
Yeah.
Okay, we did that on Tuesday.
Yes.
Then on Wednesday, we had a real good Doctor Who discussion,
Yeah.
and Dave Rose was a part of that.
Yes. Yeah. The credit to him as always.
Yeah, and he was a heavy contributor. And
Hmm.
now I understand that you spent some time with your nephew watching some old Doctor Who and kind
Yes.
of catching up and getting an idea of some of the
Yes.
older
How
stuff.
Yeah, the older storylines, how the technology was back then, and plus, you know, credit to my nephew James there because he told me about this streaming channel called Pluto TV, which they have all these classic Doctor Who episodes ranging from the first, the second, the fourth, the fifth, and possibly I'm still waiting for them to get to the fifth Doctor series with Peter Davison. So that probably won't be a while because God knows there's how many episodes they did with Tom Baker there because it lasted from what was it about in the early 70s to the early 1980s, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think it was about 8 years, but I'd have to look it up to be quite honest.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not sure,
yeah,
but yeah, that it's some it's fun to watch because each Doctor brings his own element to the show,
yeah,
and it changes, but it doesn't change.
yeah,
It just changes a little bit in what they do.
yeah,
So it's an interesting watch. It's fun to do, and again, both of us will recommend that people that get into that watch a little bit of every Doctor because they're all different,
yes,
and then you can kind of draw your own conclusions.
yeah, no,
And then on Thursday, we kind of went into the 40s and the big band era and talked a lot about big bands. And we mentioned some other things. And one of the things that I thought of after we
yeah,
talked was you mentioned the comedy teams,
yeah,
and neither one of us mentioned probably one of the greatest ones, and that was the
yeah.
Marx Brothers.
Oh yeah,
They
I never really watched any of the episode of any movies of the Marx Brothers, but I understand they are considered one of the great. I just only know Groucho from the years afterwards with
right
that
from
big
that show.
mustache. Yes,
You bet
and of
your
course
life.
his yes, definitely that was when he grew his real mustache because you remember in the movies he always had some sort of
He had it
electrical
painted
tape
on.
over,
Yeah,
yeah, painted. Yes,
but those were excellent movies. Someday we can talk about them, but I'd like for you to watch a couple of them,
yeah,
and then when we get to the movies, we might even discuss a couple of them.
yeah.
I would
All
suggest
right,
that A Night at the Opera,
yeah,
uh, Day at the Races. Do these
yeah.
names sound familiar?
Yes, they were later. They were also later used as titles for the couple Queen albums.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Those two I would recommend it if you get a chance to watch. It's fun because Groucho's himself. He's the world's greatest ad libber.
yep,
And Chico was good. Great
yeah.
piano player. If you see him play the piano, you'd be amazed.
Wow.
And then Harpo was he was a wonderful harp player,
Yeah,
and you'll be amazed at his talent.
yeah.
Another movie that comes to mind is Duck Soup.
Oh,
That
yeah.
one's,
That's the one. That's the one they talk about the most. There.
yeah, but I do the other two first, then do the third one. It's worth your time. You'll enjoy the heck out of them. Promise. I know
Hmm.
you will. But the audience, I think so too.
Yeah. If the audience of today can appreciate it, that stuff there.
Exactly.
Now, of course, we all on Thursday we was also going to be touched up with with other music discussion, music from the 1930s and 40s and the 20s. There, we were discussing a lot of
Well,
acts like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Ella Fitzgerald, all these stars from that generation there, from that
exactly.
time period. Stuff that my dad was really into. That's how I was able to recognize some of the classics from him. Shout out to him. I know
Right.
he's watching over me right now.
Right. Uh, we didn't
And
get
then
to
the Frank,
Friday.
yeah, we never did because I know you had some stuff to
You had
take care
stuff
of,
going
and
on, and I
plus,
had stuff
uh,
going on. So,
yeah, we had it. So we kind of like got sidetracked for the next week there. So
yeah,
the
but we're
following
back on
week, and
track.
yes, we're back on track today. Now, other than this past Thursday, when we watched the airboat, excuse me, there, when we watched the idiot known as Bullfrog get his ass buried, and so on and so on, like he did. It's
Yeah.
just kind of, yeah. It's just it was a very damn time. I had to re-upload that whole episode, believe it or not, because you
Yeah, I
remember
saw that.
me and yeah, me and Vikings, had to we were simulcasted together on each other's channels. Now somehow there was a lot of lagging, there was a lot of issues on my end. So what I had to do is had to use part one from my end on it because I had to divide it into two.
Right.
I had to ask Vikings for permission to borrow some of the snippets from his Simon end on it because
Well,
still to make it whole complete. Yeah,
he seems like a great guy. So
he is.
I
Yeah,
didn't figure you'd
absolutely.
have any problem with him.
No, there was no problems with him from the very beginning. We had mutual respect for one another from the very beginning.
Hey, he just showed up in chat. Hello to
Um,
you.
what's up, Vikings? Want to go join in on the show, man?
We're just discussing the recap and preview, but you know what the heck?
And by the way, speaking of, I think probably this will be the last time we speak of him because Pro V was on the Twitter asking me, "Why are you giving this guy so much attention? You're smart, he's a dork, and all that stupid shit."
Yeah, to
Basically, we
be
weren't really
honest, I
getting.
don't really like to talk about him.
All right, I'm just gonna. After tonight, we're gonna be done with the guy. He deleted everything on his channel there. He just removed it all, and it's kind of funny because he was wanting me to remove some of the stuff from my channel. I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So he ends up burying his own dumbass.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, on Tuesday this week,
Mm-hmm.
we plan to get more into the 20s and 30s and such and 40s. We might touch on big bands, but actually, I think we need to kind of discuss the other stuff that was going on then. That was the early country music, the early folk music,
Yes.
things of that nature. And there's a lot actually to talk about then. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do in regards to that. So that's what we'll kind of concentrate on Tuesday night. And every show is going to start at 6 o'clock Central
Yep.
and
Well, except for
go about an.
Thursday.
Well, we'll
Oh
get to
yeah.
Thursday. But
Yes.
Thursday
Right.
we'll probably
Yeah.
start at 5 Central instead of 6. Because I'm of a mind, and Doctor agrees with me, that we don't want to interfere with anybody we know's live
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
And Minnesota Vikings van has one that starts about 6 Central.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we want to
And I
stay
participate
off of
on
his
that show.
feet. And,
So we're looking for so out of mutual respect,
right.
Yeah.
Okay, on Wednesday, we're going to start with Star Trek, the original series, and we're going to
Yes.
kind of go, in a sense, episode by episode, but not in great detail. But we'll kind of talk about each one,
Hmm.
kind of give a brief summary of them. And
Yeah.
I personally plan to try to kind of rate them how I feel about them. I
Yeah.
don't do the 1 through 10 thing. I am more in line with poor, fair, good, very good, excellent, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and probably some stuff in between, but that's kind of what I'm looking at in that regards. And that one, I've seen all the episodes, but the doctor hadn't. And maybe when
Yeah.
we talk about it, I can give him some insight into, hey, try to find
Yeah.
this one.
I can. Yeah. I could. I could definitely use some of it.
Because there are a lot of episodes that are going to fall in good, very good, and excellent. But actually, unfortunately, there are some fair and poors,
Yeah.
especially the third season.
Yes.
We'll get as far as we can get into that and go from there to the next week. Thursday
All right.
depends on how Tuesday goes. If we can finish up on Tuesday, what we'll do on Thursday is start going into the 50s. And I'm thinking we discuss the early genres then, like rhythm and blues, soul,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, and doo-wop, and maybe even get into country. It just kind of depends on how it goes and how the flow goes. And then when we start hitting rock and roll, that's when we get kind of interesting, because every once in a while we're going to hit an artist that we need to spend a whole show on and kind of discuss them, their work, what they did, what they contributed,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So that's what we're looking for there. Friday,
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
gonna. I forgot what we called it, but basically what we're gonna do is
It
do.
was. I think it was movies. Yeah.
But what we're gonna do is talk about movies that if you haven't seen, you probably should see because they're either so bad they're good,
Yeah.
or they're just unrecognized as being real good. And
Yeah.
the Thursday and Wednesday shows on TV and movies, we would like to see people make suggestions in the comments, and then we'll kind of look at it and see if we want to fit them in, because we've already got some ideas and some things that we're looking at in the future on those. But input from people that are listening would be great. That's something we want to see. So that's what we're looking for on Fridays, and that's kind of what we're thinking. So basically, Monday through Friday, except for Thursday, we're going to start at 6 Central, and on
Yep.
Thursday, we're going to start at 5 Central. And we're going to
Yes.
try to go live every time. If
Oh yeah.
something happens that we can't, we'll try to pre record it and throw it up there at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
But generally, we're going to try to do these things live because we
Yes.
want some participation. And anybody that sees this, please tell your friends. Uh,
Yeah, spread the word around about each other's channels. My channel, Argnolia's channel, and the shows we're going to be doing on them. Spread the word around, people.
Absolutely. And I just started my channel, so there's not much there other than what we're doing right now. And
Yes.
I may throw some things up there every now and then. but it's going to be general stuff probably, things of
Yeah,
that nature. Or maybe I'll cover something that the doctor doesn't know anything about and doesn't want to deal with it.
yeah,
But we'll keep something going over there. I'm just not sure what.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Eh,
we'll definitely come up with some lot of stuff there to talk about, and a
Absolutely.
lot of stuff. And look, there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of things out there. I'm definitely looking forward to learning as well. When you think about it, there.
Well, I figure that I'll teach you, you'll teach me, and the people that are listening will
Yes.
actually teach us too.
Yeah.
They may
Yes.
point something out that we don't know about because
All
there's
right.
just a lot of material. And one of the things we've realized is we don't know everything. So
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of looking at other people educating
Mm,
us too.
that's true. So we'd like to get a lot of people participating on the call. I asked Minnesota Vikings fan if he's available to come on the call there since he's in the chat there. You know, so far he hasn't responded. That probably is away for the moment there.
Yeah,
Maybe I should probably get him on the call here a little in a couple of seconds there. See how he's doing.
yeah, we can give him a shout out and see what he's got going on.
Okay, let's see if I can add the guy to the call here. All right, I know Ken from Flowmouse Network is online. I know he's. I think JB from JB Sports Radio is online as well. See if I can add the guy to the call there.
Well, let's see who you get and go from there.
All right, add Ken as well later on, possibly.
Yeah, because like I said, I'd like participation, but
Yeah,
I just really want to keep it on the subject, whatever the subject might be,
yeah,
and deal with that, and leave the other stuff for other places, other shows, whatever, and try to stay on because I think we'll gain more listeners if we stay with stuff that well, whatever subject's on hand. If as long
yeah.
as we stay on that.
Stay on the subject and don't drift into any other else. Like unlike somebody that I used to do shows with earlier this year
Yeah, I
to put
listened to
forward.
some of those shows and I liked the shows initially, but then they
Yeah,
started kind of getting weird.
drip, getting drunk or getting involved with this, getting involved with that, and this anything from the subject. I mentioned this a couple times before. There was a couple times where we were supposed to do our tribute series to the Big British Four on Sundays, but sadly, however, it just the first episode didn't really work out that well. I got more dislikes because we were straying off the subject,
Yeah, and I think
which
people are going to
was
be more interested if we stay on subjects. For instance, on the music
exactly.
shows from the 50s, when we get into that,
Yeah,
I think Elvis Presley deserves his own.
yeah,
We
definitely.
discuss him and his work.
Yeah,
Maybe Buddy Holly. And in some
yeah, we got to
cases, we'll
acknowledge
combine a
him.
couple. Like we might.
Especially since he's a big since he's a Texas native and one of the pioneers of rock and roll as well.
Yeah, and there was a lot of bands that were influenced by him. A lot of his
Mm,
tunes get covered.
mhm.
So, yeah, I think he deserves a show. In fact, probably the
Absolutely.
absolute tribute to him was the last cover the Beatles did before they went into simply their own material was a Buddy Holly song.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I think it's
Some of
Words
them.
of Love.
Possibly, yeah. We got to find that song on YouTube pretty soon there. Because it's always interesting to hear what the Beatles have done before they became their own individuals there. Because a lot of bands, when they start out, they usually start out as cover bands.
Right. I think
And
they all pretty much did that. And then they
yeah,
got off into their own stuff. Because the
yeah.
Beatles did a lot of covers actually in their
Oh,
early
yeah.
4 or 5 albums.
Oh yeah, I remember, yes. Stuff like let's see, Buddy Holly, as you mentioned, there was they did a lot of songs by. I remember Kansas City was a cover. They
Right,
did some Chuck Berry songs
right.
there. Did a lot of. They basically brought black rock artists out into the open.
Yeah, and the Stones did the same thing actually.
Yeah, because the English lads up there and there, they really appreciated acts like John Lee Hooker, Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters, all those artists. They really had a fondness for it, and it showed in their music.
Yeah, because if you read any interviews with them,
Yeah.
they mention all of that, and they talk about how
Yes.
when they were growing up, that's what they listened to.
Yeah.
They didn't really listen to what did we have over here, the Four Seasons, things of that nature. Although there's nothing wrong
No.
with the Four Seasons, I like them,
Yeah.
but they're pop. I mean, in a sense.
It's more settled back. It's more laid back where bands like the Beatles, the Stones, the Yardbirds were like get out there rah, da, 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 da. And then that influenced us American kids to pick up guitars and start creating our own stuff in that particular style there. God knows how many other bands tried to mimic and be like the Beatles, especially from England.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
King,
In
yeah,
fact, when we get into the 60s, that's when it's going to get to be fun because we're going to
yeah,
discuss the British invasion and the American
yep,
answer.
yeah,
So we'll get into a lot of stuff there. And that's also when the psychedelic songs started.
yeah,
Yardbirds were a forerunner of that, but then other
yeah,
groups. And that's going to be the interesting part. There are groups that touch in all the areas a little bit. In other
yes.
words, they'll do a song that sounds psychedelic, then they'll do a
Mm.
song that's so that's going to be real interesting when we get in that because we can talk about just a genre, but we're going to have groups that are going to appear in several genres because of the way they do music.
Wow, yeah, definitely. It's
So that's when
gotta,
it's going to get real interesting.
yeah, it's when really gonna. So basically, folks, we're gonna start digging in real deep into this stuff and into material that we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah, and we're going to try to make it a little bit involved, so hopefully people their interest stays with us.
Yeah, yeah. And once again, we're also looking for anticipation from the anybody listening, whether it's Farmhouse Ken, Justin Bailey, possibly we could probably get Joe Cronin on the show here,
When he finds
possibly.
out we're doing Star Trek on Wednesdays, that's a real good possibility.
I should probably DM him, ahead of time. Let him know that if he wants to, he could participate this coming Wednesday night when we do that show.
As long as we don't interfere with the wrestling.
Yeah, no, probably it won't. Well, let's see. I'll like I said, I'll DM him on Twitter, and let him know whole deal if he's available to join in on that particular show there that we got lined up.
Yeah, because the original series, from what I understand, he's familiar with. He knows a little bit about it.
Yes.
But when we get into the next generation, that's his baby. He's
Yeah, I know.
all over the next generation.
Oh yeah, because and all the other shows that came afterwards, like Star Trek Voyager, Deep Space Nine,
Right.
Enterprise,
Enterprise.
and of course Discovery, and this cartoon series. Not the original 1970s animated series featuring the original cast. It
Yeah.
was like I think it's called. Let me find it here on.
Yeah, the animated series, the early one, was actually not too bad.
All right. Yeah, no, I remember seeing that when it was on Saturday mornings there.
They
Oh
kind
yeah,
of tried to stay with the theme of the show.
yeah.
Roddenberry must have had a part in that. He
Oh
almost
yeah.
had to have.
Oh yeah, the one I'm looking out for right now is on CBS All Access. It's called Star Trek Lower Decks. It is an animated comedy series that follows a support crew on one of the Starfleet's least important ships.
Oh boy. Well, I know
As
that I haven't seen any of those. I haven't seen Discovery or Picard, but
mhm.
I've kind of heard they don't really stay with the theme of the original Star Treks.
Ah,
The they kind of drift off into other areas or whatever. And I
yes,
know Joe's not wild about those, and him
Yeah,
being as big a Trekkie as he is, that kind of scares me a little bit, I guess, about them.
yeah, yeah,
But we'll get into those. We'll kind of like we'll go through a journey through those, and we'll see what we come
yeah.
up with, and see what we can do.
What's kind of funny is that when like Star Wars, we got to mention this ahead of time.
Right?
Star Trek has been known to bring back a bunch of old characters, like with the Picard series. It was able to bring back Seven and Nine, played by Jerry Ryan from the Voyager series. It's like and I guess they have the new version of Data as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. And of course, you'll remember on Deep Space Nine, Worf would become part of that crew on if you later on in that series.
Yeah. Actually, he was a very important part of that show.
Yeah,
Big time.
yeah. So we definitely gotta mention that. A lot of times, old cast members can come back to the new series. In fact, you remember during the Next Generation run, Leonard Nimoy came back as Ambassador Spock.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember what episode, but I remember he was there, and I believe McCoy was there too. Seemed to think he was on one. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely we're going to be touching that up on this coming Wednesday there on our program there, the TB Memories. Definitely check it out there, people.
Right.
Hmm.
Hopefully you enjoy it, because like I say, we're going to be pretty close to the subject, and we're going to stay pretty much on the subject for the most part, and
Yes.
try to make sure that we don't lose people because we get into the other stuff. We'll save the other stuff for shows that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Part of their entertainment.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely for sure, man. Yeah, like I said, we're getting a lot of things going here. We got a lot of projects coming up. We got everything happening here. We got well, it's basically a stable. Like I said, we're gonna keep it stable. We're gonna keep it drama free for sure, and we're just gonna keep it on the subject. Like I said, the last program I was involved with.
Well, we'll try to also keep it consistent and
Yes,
make sure that we have a pattern going on so it can be easy to follow.
yes, that is correct as well. We're gonna keep it plain and simple on the subject and nothing else, folks. That's about it.
And if we do it, we'll touch on it, then come back off of it.
Yeah, it's true. And we're gonna probably keep this probably pretty much or an hour or 90 minutes because too many times programs have unless there's a good subject coming up at the last minute, that's when everybody just goes off their own. The end of the show becomes boring, and
Yeah,
we don't want
because
this
you get
show to be
tired.
boring. Yeah, and that has happened a couple of times before with me. And why are there?
Yeah, because honestly, at that time, there was a couple of them I quit watching because I couldn't deal with the stuff going on. But
I know it was just,
that's
and we promise everybody out there listening that will not happen on our show.
eh,
Definitely.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
So hopefully we will see you guys when we start up. And again, hopefully we hope we have live listeners either
Yes.
here or on my channel, one or the other,
Yeah.
because we're going to try to simulcast these things so that you can go to either one of them. Uh, and that's
Yep.
kind of where we're trying to go with this.
Yes. That's what we're trying to do, folks. And believe me, it's going to be. We got a lot of stuff going on here, folks. As I mentioned.
There's some big plans now, but if anybody has, like I said, any kind of thing they want to hear or see or suggestions in the comments would be my suggestion. Well,
Uh huh.
ironically, my suggestion. Uh, but
That is
just
right.
drop a comment and tell us what you like, what you don't like,
Yeah,
and we'll try to listen to you.
yeah,
I mean, we want to stay on a schedule, but if
mhm.
somebody brings up something that makes sense, well, we'll try that and go from there.
Yes, we will do that. Now, once again, we're going to be once again, tonight is our recap and preview of what's we got coming on. Tomorrow night it will be music, and I guess Wednesday night it's going to be TV memories with focusing on the original Star Trek series.
Right?
Music once again on Thursday night at a different time, and on Friday we're going to be taking a look at we've been wanting to look at Plan 9 from Outer Space, if I'm correct.
Yes, and this is going to be a movie that if you people have never seen it, it will amaze you
Yeah,
at the stuff going on in it, how bad it is, and yet you'll want to see it for that reason.
yeah.
It's it's hilariously entertaining and wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. But then again, they got to remember that the man behind it, Ed Wood, wasn't that much. He loved to make movies, but he he didn't have that much of a big budget.
Well, not only that, honestly, he wasn't very good at it.
Yeah.
It's actually I can remember the first time I saw Plan 9 from Outer Space. I knew nothing about it. It came on late night, and I said, oh, let's watch this, see what it's like. Sat down, started watching it, and basically from the very beginning, it was kind of like, what the heck? And we just took it from there and watched the whole thing. And I said to myself, this was one bad movie. And this is, I think, 30 years ago or something like that I saw it.
Way, way 30 years. It introduced the character known as Vampira.
Yeah, that was. I'll look up her name, but she was
Yeah,
she was kind of like the precursor to Elvira,
yeah,
very similar.
exactly. And
And
what's even more funny is that Vampira is often lumped in with these goth chicks out there, along with the Nancy from The Craft, Lily Munster, Morticia Adams,
yeah,
Wednesday Adams, and Elvira herself.
yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned Lily Munster and Morticia Adams because actually
Yeah.
those two TV shows might be worth a talk because
Oh
they were
yeah,
both actually good for their time.
were very original. When you think about it, some of that TV today is certainly lacking.
Yeah, that's true. So that's something maybe we ought to stick on our list is those two shows. Probably do
Yes.
them together because they were
Yeah,
both relatively short. I think they were both 2 seasons.
I
Or
think so. Yeah, but they were, like I said, they were quite original.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Lily Munster, not in, well, the lady that later Yvonne DiCarlo, not in the
Yes.
makeup and the dress and all that, was actually a very beautiful woman,
Oh yeah.
as
And so was
was
and
Carolyn
so was
Jones.
Carolyn Jones, who played Morticia Adams.
Yeah.
And you see her, and it's like you cannot blame Gomez Adams for being that so in love with her, like he was.
Oh yeah. And come on, I'm thinking of his name.
Mm.
The
Fred
actor.
Gwynn.
No, no, no.
What? No.
The Adams Family guy.
Oh yeah, the Adam Sandler guy. Go
Oh, John
John. I
Aston.
think John Aston. There we go. There we. No.
And actually, what's funny with him, he was very good in that show.
Hmm.
But when he later appeared on Night Court as Buddy, I
Yes.
thought he was hilarious there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It was
He
funny
was
because
definitely one.
his favorite thing to do was to sit there and talk about something that was just so outlandish. This. I remember when this happened, this happened, and then he'd say, "But I'm feeling much better now." Yeah, I used to crack up every time he did that.
Oh yeah.
No, he was very good as a character in that show.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
We got
hopefully
to
we'll
give
get
him
a
about his
chance to.
and sadly he is no longer with us. I guess he passed away. What was it? He was 90 years old when he died. And he's still living. I thought he died, man.
Wow.
Wow. It's something there. He's in his 90s. He's still going on. I guess he's still a lot of I don't know if he's doing any projects lately, but he's still living there. He lives in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked that guy. I thought he was good at what he did.
Yeah.
He when he played a part, he was the part, and there aren't many of them
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And apparently still active. He also did some directing for a few TV shows there, and he's also a voice artist as
Wow.
well.
Yeah, because he's got a great that kind of voice.
Yeah, definitely, definitely for sure, man. It's kind of funny, sadly, as I mentioned, what's her name? Carolyn Jones. She's no longer. I wonder how she would have looked today. I'm going to look her up right now.
Yeah, because back then she was good. I mean, she really looked good
Yeah,
and played that part well. And look
yeah,
at
she
here, we're
did.
discussing the two shows, and we were talking about discussing them later.
Yep.
But at least we touched on them.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so definitely, we're going to be previewing those two topics on our channel, on each other's channels, I should say, in coming weeks. There, we're going to definitely touch up on these shows there,
Yeah, there is
and
so much material out there. We will never run out of ideas.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We could have just simply left it at music and gone on for darn near forever.
That's true. But then again, there's a lot more subjects we need to talk about as well. A
Right,
lot more, not just of the TV of the yesteryear, the music, the styles of yesteryear, especially the styles. Now, a lot of the kids today, a lot of the young guys out there with their makeup beards, their nerdy glasses, and their plugs in their earlobes. They need to take a lesson though from the men from the yesteryear around the 1930s. Back then, a lot of times the men wore a lot of shirts, button up long sleeve shirts, regular pants, and a lot of suits and ties and stuff. We don't really see that much of nowadays.
right.
Except, you know, nowadays you're just kids that will put on these weirdo pants, weirdo shoes with their hair sticking up for miles, trying to look like a racer head there. And it's just not really cutting. It's not cutting the crap there. It's just not cutting the cheese. Basically, it's
Right,
just not doing its job. You know, and plus, it just makes no sense.
right.
You know, I understand some styles that do need to change once in a while, but not for the bad.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you copy an older style, they're inserting other stuff in there that had nothing to do with the older style, and it makes
Yeah,
it look funny.
yeah. Which, by the way, speaking of which, we got to bring up this little style here, the return of the mullet.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot. I heard about this on Fox News a couple weeks back, and I've seen a lot. Went to Google Images. I've seen a lot of people. A lot of dudes, a lot of gals. Miley Cyrus is one of them. I think David Beckham is has one as well. It's not like the ultra '80s mullet, but it's kind of like it's still short, but there's a little bit of length in the back, as you can see there.
right.
Yeah. And I guess a lot of guess some women are getting them as well because it's currently the style. The difference is, however, they're often making them into unique little versions of the mullet. There, a little something in the back here and there with the head size shaved a little bit there.
Yeah, they're kind of doing, I guess, what you would call a variation.
Yes, kind of like mixing in with the styles of today there.
Right.
What's interesting because back around 2002 when actually 2012 when I was living with my girlfriend at that time by Mexican Town back in Detroit, there were a few Latin guys out there sporting mullets, some of the old style mullets of the yesteryear.
Right.
Yeah, which is interesting. I don't know if it was a tradition that kind of like gave me a, when you think about it, they gave me a foretelling of that style coming back a couple years later. It just would take 8 years.
Yeah, I never had a mullet.
You know,
I mean,
you know, the only time I had one back was years back when actually would have I kind of like had one something like that, but it was a short one around the time around 2011, 2012 when I moved up there with my girlfriend. I kind of like got me something in back because I've always had something like in the back somewhat. I just couldn't stand the regular business haircuts that they had back then.
yeah,
I just couldn't stand it. So what I did is I decided, get something like that. Kind of looked like kind of like either Michael Schenker's hairstyle or Rob Halford's hairstyle from 1986 when he kind of like had one a little bit there. You know.
yeah,
So yeah, that's pretty much about it. And since that, it's been long, 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 except for 2018 when I went to get it trimmed and the lady just took more than she could.
well,
Took more to actually cut off more than she was supposed to. I meant to say.
yeah. Well, I basically, well, I was actually in the armed services, not armed, 'cause I wasn't armed, but I was
Hmm.
in the military for 7 years, so I had the military haircuts then. And
Yes.
after that, I pretty much just whatever I felt like. If I had time to go ahead and get a haircut, I went and got one. If I didn't, well,
Yeah.
be that as it may, that's what happened. And there's been a couple, three times in my life I've grown a full beard, but I didn't keep it a real long time.
Um,
And I've had a mustache a few times too, but
yeah.
you know, and then there was one period of time that I have extremely curly hair, and I grew my
Yeah.
hair really long
Yeah.
and tied it back in a ponytail. And when people looked at me, they thought it was only about 4 inches long or something like that. But
Yeah.
when I got my hair wet, it went clear down my back end to right at my back end.
Yeah, that's
And,
how usually a hair it is when it's usually when it's all straightened out. It looks very longer.
and people looked at me and said, "Good gosh, I didn't know your hair was that long." And I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I just haven't cut it in a year and a half or whatever it was at
Yeah.
that point." And of course, when it dried, it curled back up into that. Like I said, I had really curly hair. It curled
Yes.
back up in that. And when I tied it back, it only looked like to be 4 or 6 inches long at most. But that was really weird. I mean, when people looked at it, they could see that it was just twirl like crazy, and it just like I said, I had really curly hair. I don't know why. It's one of my characteristics, I suppose.
Yeah. Maybe that's. I usually got. I know I got wavy hair. It's kind of like my dad's hair.
Right,
And what it was, I often take a lot more after him from what I do with my mom there.
right.
Except for being Path Cherokee, I got that from her definitely. But most of my looks and hairstyle and body frame is from my father.
Yeah, I think most guys generally inherit their father. Not always, because I know I have a
Yeah,
lot of characteristics from my mother. The hair actually
yeah,
comes from her.
yeah. I know there's a couple of chances that you got to hear it both from your mom and dad. When I first saw Prince William, when he was like when he started being getting noticed there, I figured, damn, he looks just like his mom and his dad combined there.
Yeah,
And it's kind of funny is that in England he was like considered a big teen idol back in years before, believe it or not.
yeah. It's weird how that works. I
I know.
mean, sometimes you wonder how certain people become a teen idol, but a lot of it has to do with who they want to push. I
Yeah,
mean, some of them are
exactly.
legit, but Some of them are kind of manufactured.
Yeah. And the one thing, and by the way, I got to bring this up there. When you're a teen idol, like say, like Britney Spears was, or like David Cassidy was back in the way,
Right,
and we might as well talk about that subject while we're on the subject there, because you know you listen to a lot of teen idols of the yesteryear. They talk about how much pressure they were under. How they wasn't really allowed to be themselves, to be their own identity, because they have to be they have to present this clean cut, wholesome image. I love my family. I love my this. I love my daddy and all that kind of stuff. I'm
right.
saving myself for the right girl. And then years later we find out they're gay.
Or they were nothing like their character.
Yeah, exactly. I remember there was the story about Donnie Wahlberg wanting to leave New Kids on the Block because and this was in a tabloid. I don't know if it was true or not because you know how them tabloid magazines
Yeah,
are. And it said that he was hoping to he was apparently wanting to leave the group because he was living a lie. I ain't no saint. I ain't no angel. You
right.
know, because you got to remember, and plus you have to be wholesome. You got to keep yourself out of trouble. And here's another thing you got to look at. You got to be single throughout the whole
Yeah, the worst thing they can do is actually
because
get
there's
married.
lots of girls out there, lots of boys out, yeah, let alone have a girlfriend. And if they're seeing some sort of a girl on the side, their publicists will probably say, "Oh, they're just friends. They're just this and that." And the
Right,
reason they do that is because deep down, the girls that they the ones who want to be with you. They're the ones that are hoping to be your girlfriend. They're the ones that are hoping to be that special someone in your life.
right.
And a lot of these old teen magazines, yes, you used to portray that as well. They used to give these girls that notion. Like, for instance, there was this one magazine I saw saying somebody's name, whose name I forgot, and it said underneath, "You could be the girl for him." And that's going to mislead all these girls out there who are about 13, 14, or 15,
But
thinking
that's
that
how
they're
they
going to
sell
get.
magazines.
Yeah, exactly. However, when you think about it, it is very deceitful.
Right,
It's deceitful because, first of all, the star that they're in love with is in their 20s, and the girls are in their pre-teens. There, it's not going to work out,
nope.
and the most likely they're going to want to be with teen idol for the teen idol, not the person behind the teen idol.
Right, right. I imagine there were a lot of them went through that. I mean,
Yeah.
generally, all four monkeys did that, except
Yeah.
they really concentrated on Davy Jones.
Oh yeah,
Because
because he
he
was the
was a cute,
cutest of all. Yeah.
he was a cute short English guy.
Yes. Yeah, they did that a lot. They did the same thing with David Cassidy.
Right?
They did the same thing with all these with Chris Brown when he first started or seeing Rihanna. They were saying things like, "Oh, they're just buddies. They're not acting like buddies when they're swimming in that beach together. They were fondling each other, cuddling each other,
Yeah,
such and such." You know,
yeah. And do you
and
remember
just
Leaf Garrett?
yes, I remember him as well.
He was a big teen idol too. In fact, he
I
was a
remember.
pretty much manufactured all the way through, including his
Yeah, it
musical
is.
career.
Exactly. When you think it's mostly covers of 1940s and 50s songs like "I'm the Wanderer." I know he covered that song in the new 70s approach. Sean Cassidy, David's brother-in-law, he was also he did his version of "Do Run Run" and
Yeah,
everything else. I remember my sister had the single for that.
yeah. It's kind of like if you want that song, get it from the Ronettes. Don't, because that's a good version.
Yeah, but then again, at that time, a teen idol of that nature could not come out sing songs like you know whether it's like "Sympathy for the Devil." They're not going to be able to do that song. They got to do
Oh
the
no.
clean cut songs there.
Yeah, and generally speaking, for the most part, for me,
Mhm.
other than a
Yeah.
few exceptions, cover songs are not really as good as originals. But I do have know some exceptions to that. There are a
Yeah.
lot of them actually. I mean, the big one that comes to mind for me is "Blinded by the Light."
Oh yeah.
I like the
Which was
Springsteen version, but the Manfred Mann Earth Band version, to me,
still
is
gets played today, believe it or not.
way superior. They really made it a
Made it
different
more
song.
theatrical.
And made it a different song actually.
Yeah, they did. In fact, it's fits to say that Manfred Mann must have been a big Springsteen head because a lot of it, he did a lot of Springsteen songs,
Yep,
including the one, I remember this one
"Blinded by
called
the
For
Light."
You. Yep. For You from 1981. I still
Yep.
remember that song. That was a great tune to listen to.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you remember the Birds, they
Yeah.
covered a lot of Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Mr. Tambourine Man as well.
Yeah, and that's another group we're going to spend some time on because they have a lot of material.
Yeah. And you got an acknowledgement of some of their members, one of their well key members, David Crosby, and of course, Roger McGuinn, who
Right,
pioneered the six-string electric guitar,
12 string.
12-string. My bad.
It's okay, but yeah,
I
he
know.
had that jangly sound, I guess you'd call it. You know, kind of, and they would, that was really important to the Birds songs.
Mm.
Yeah, and you talked
Elect-
about David Crosby. Of course, you knew
yeah.
Graham Nash and the Hollies,
Yes. Mm.
and they
And
can't.
Steven Sills from Buffalo Springfield with Neil Young.
Yeah, and Young would join them a few times.
Yeah, I did. But he was always off doing his own thing there.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Uh, Very innovative guy. He went out in a lot of different edges. That's another guy that covers several different genres.
Yeah, we got to definitely bring him up on the topic there because there's a lot of things that because a lot of people may not know that the guy who would later become a god of grunge music and pioneer of that also did an electronic album, a rockabilly album, and a country album
Yeah,
around the 1980s. We got to look into definitely,
he
yeah, that
pretty
album.
much touched them all.
Yes.
I mean, well, when we get into the various single artists that we want to cover, or the single bands or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
uh, I kind of want to touch on their albums if we could in order,
Yeah.
and then kind of talk about each one and some recommendations from both of us what people need to listen to because outside of a very few albums, every album has good songs and bad songs.
Yeah.
There are a few albums that every song's a good song, and some of the Zepp albums were that way.
Yeah. Definitely. Absolutely. Each album had its own identity to put forth.
Oh, absolutely. Especially the
Yeah.
ones that were trying to tell a story or had a continuity to them. The Moody Blues are known for that.
Oh yes, we gotta salute those guys. You gotta give it up to the Moody's because they put it out some albums that are considered one of the core seven is what they're talking. Referring to
Oh yeah, I
Days
know
of
which
Future
ones.
Past, yeah, to Seven Soarin'. Those are the prime albums for me because they were the ones that had the messages, the songs arrangements, the production, how it was done. You couldn't even top the atmosphere that was portrayed on those albums.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into them, especially the core seven.
Yeah,
Although they had I think it was at least two albums that came out before that, but those had a couple of different members in it.
yeah,
One of them including Denny Lane, who later went on to Wings.
yeah. And most of those, or I guess, so those records had a few. Uh, it was more like the British pop kind of stuff there until they
Yeah,
became their own individuals.
they were basically part of the British invasion that went into like,
Yeah,
oh, let's do some prog because those seven are generally prog.
yeah. Exactly. I think I guess that's to say that the Moody's were probably one of the first prog rock groups out there to emerge.
What's funny is that's kind of the way I see it, but I was reading somewhere that a lot of people are considering Rubber Soul and Revolver as among the first prog albums by the
Mm,
Beatles,
wow.
It's like,
Yes.
oh, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because they were
But
definitely different.
yeah, they were definitely. I remember having Rubber Soul myself. I still want to listen to the whole Revolver album because I never did had that album,
Oh,
sadly.
that's got some great tunes on it.
Yeah.
But when we
All
get
right.
to the Beatles, we'll kind of discuss those albums one by one.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And that will be up in the weeks ahead of here.
Right. I
Now
mean, when we
listen,
get to the 60s.
yeah, definitely. All right. I think it's time to end the show right now. I'm going to be heading out with my brother-in-law to do some stuff there. All right. So once again, tomorrow night we'll be doing music, and I guess we'll be looking at what was it, the 1950s, I guess,
No,
or
20s,
we got.
30s, and 40s we'll finish up with.
Okay, definitely. We'll definitely do that. It gets get distracted at times. And Wednesday we'll be talking about the original Star Trek series from the
Right.
1960s. And Thursday we'll do an early show about 5 p.m. Central, spotlighting on what was it again?
Well,
More
basically, we'll
music.
see how the 20s, 30s, and 40s go. If we sort of finish up with them, we'll move into the 50s.
Okay,
We'll kind
and on
of see how.
and
Go ahead.
okay, and on Friday night we'll be taking a look at the Ed Wood classic Plan 9 from Outer Space. The classic, and we'll discuss how bad it is, how good it has now become.
Yeah. And point out things within the movie that you kind of go, see
All
this
right.
part? Can you believe this? That sort of
Yes.
thing. Because there's some
Yeah.
really bad dialogue. There's actually things going on that if you're paying attention to, you go, why is he doing that? Or things of that nature.
Mhm.
And we'll just kind of pretty much cover the movie.
Yes. All right. Definitely. We're going to be doing that for this week here. All right. So I think it's time we end the show right now because, like I said, I got some things to do.
Okay.
Ar- okay. And Arknolia will be once again tomorrow night. Arknolia and the Doctor tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow we will be continuing our music discussion on the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. Okay?
Sounds good. We'll see
All
everybody
right.
then, hopefully.
Okay, then. All right. You have a good one,
All
and
right.
I'll see you tomorrow night.
All righty. Sounds good.
All right, then. Bye bye. Everybody else listening, you take care as well.